What's the best way to reach the crown of command? Fight your way through the hordes of horrible creatures? Cast spells over your sworn enemies? Or how about just nicking stuff? Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boynter and today we are doing another Talisman 4th edition character hints and tips. This is a guide, and then this time we'll be doing the thief. Oh yes, the thief. Where is he? Is he in there? He's probably in there somewhere, nicking stuff, because that's what thieves do. Now this series is all about hints and tips for Talisman, the board game, the 4th edition from Fantasy Flight, which I do believe they're reprinting. Coiled Spring are going to be distributing it, so it should still be relevant for that edition as well. I don't think they're making any changes, they're just basically reprinting it. We have done 2 more of these. We've done the Sorceress and also the Ghoul. And we're going to be doing the 14 base characters to begin with, and then probably monkeying around looking at the other expansions as well. And believe you me, there are a lot of expansions. So let's find out what the thief has to offer. The thief. Just who is he, what is he, and what is he about? Well, the thief, he starts in the city, as you'd probably expect, because that's where he likes to nick stuff. He is also neutral in alignment. You can either be good, neutral, or evil in Talisman. And also he has a strength 3 and craft 3, and he has 4 lives, and he also has 2 fate. And the special abilities, he's only got 2. So, you know, you've got to use them wisely. The first special ability is you may take 1 gold or 1 object of your choice from a character that you land on. And the second special ability is whenever you visit the market or the market day or village, you may take 1 card of your choice from the purchase deck for free. So basically, as you've probably guessed, the thief's strength is all about stealing objects. Yes, you are light-fingered, and your special abilities involve taking objects from other characters or places. So that is your main opening gambit. That's kind of what you should be focusing on when you first start playing, especially early on, because then you can try to start nicking stuff to help you to power up early. So let's just take a quick look at those special abilities in a bit more detail. So the first one, you may take 1 gold or object of your choice from a character that you land on. So that's important to remember. If a character lands on you in the same space, you can't do that special ability. You have to land on them. So why should you take a gold or an object from another player? Well, you automatically can do it. You don't have to roll a die, they don't have to do a saving throw or anything like that. You can just take an object, gold or an object, regardless of the other character's strength, their craft, their fate or alignment. It's just there, it's what you do, it's what you were born to do. So you might as well do that. Now there are 2 exceptions, and they are from different expansions. So if you do play with the other expansions, if you have the concealed pouch or the bag of carrying, neither the pouch or the object in the pouches can be stolen. So that is the only exception as far as I know. There might be a few others, but as far as I know, if the thief lands on one of those characters that has either of those, the concealed pouch or the bag of carrying, the thief can't nick the pouch or the bag of carrying or the objects in it. But if you're not playing with those expansions, those cards won't come up. So the general rule is, yes, when you land on another player, you can actually just go in and take what you want. So why would you want to take gold as opposed to an object? Well, that pretty much depends on what the objects are on offer. So if there isn't anything tasty, you might as well just take a gold, because you can use gold to heal lives at the chapel or at the city. So some character, because he's neutral in the chapel, he can dive in and just use his gold to pay to heal up to his starting quota. You can also replenish fate at the cost of 1 gold per fate in the graveyard. So it's it's worth having a lot of gold so you can keep replenishing your fate, bearing in mind you only get 2 to begin with. And you can pay various followers enemies and strangers. So obviously, as you go through the adventure deck, various followers, strangers, and enemies crop up. So for example, the mercenary, you can pay 1 gold for it, so he will fight for you. You can join. He'll join you as a follower, and you pay him a gold, and he will fight in your place. So that can be quite handy. Also, there's the bandits that crop up. You can pay 1 gold, and they won't fight you. So you can just pay them off because you're sneaky like that. And also there's a sorcerer that might crop up. You can buy spells, 1 spell per gold, and that's quite handy because your craft is 3, so you should have a spell. You can use spells early on in the game. So if the sorcerer does crop up, that's very handy as well. And you can also buy various things from the blacksmith at the village. If you think, gold isn't quite enough when you land on another player, and you want to steal an object, well, you can get cool objects. That's the point. And because you can buy the standard objects at the blacksmith, you might want to sort of nick other objects that aren't for sale on the actual board when you first play. So for example, adventure cards, you find objects. Now if someone else has found those objects, you can target them. You can maybe spend 2 or 3 goes trying to get those objects off them. So for example, there's lots of magical items that are not in the purchase deck. So for example, you've got the wand, the magic belt, Solomon's crown, and obviously a talisman. If somebody's got a talisman, especially early on, really early on, they get a talisman because there are few in the adventure deck, or they just try to go straight for the Warlock's Cave and get a quest, then why not go and nick it? Let them do all the hard work, and then you can just go along and nick it. So it is worth targeting players totally early on to get the cool stuff so you can power up. Or if they happen to buy any of the regular equipment from the purchase deck, you can nick that as well. It's always fun going along nicking just a basic sword, because that will still add 1 to your strength. And in the early days, that's what you want to do. You want to be powering up your craft, and you want to be powering up your strength. Whenever you visit, so the second ability is whenever you visit the market day, or village, you may take 1 card of your choice from the purchase deck for free. So it's definitely worth doing this. Now the market day and market, they are cards that are in the adventure deck. So they may or may not crop up early on. They might not even crop up at all because there's a lot of adventure cards, so you might not play all the way through them. But if they do, you should take advantage of it, because you can both sell the same. They sell the same things, the market day and the market, but the market is actually cheaper. Market is a place, and that will stay on the board. So if the market comes up, it's brilliant because you can keep going back, try to keep going back to power up really quickly. Market day is an event, and that will be 1 use only, and then it goes to the discard pile. It's still good, but you could only nick from that once. So you kind of want to be hoping that the market crops up, because that's a place and that stays on the board. Unless, of course, there's an effect that removes places. So you could also go to the village to steal stuff. Now, the wording on the village at the blacksmith is open to a little bit of interpretation here. It says, take 1 card of your choice from the purchase deck for free. But in the village, it doesn't list, because then on the village on the board, it actually lists what the blacksmith sells. But in the purchase deck, there is also the mule, the water bottle, and the raft. So are you allowed to take that? Because it does say you can take 1 card from the purchase deck for free. But if the blacksmith isn't selling it, surely it's not there to be stolen. If you go along and he hasn't got a mule in his shop, surely you can't steal a mule. And you'd probably keep it out the back anyway. But you couldn't steal that, surely. So I would play it that you can't steal the mule, water bottle, or raft because it's not in the shop. Thematically it doesn't quite work for me. And the other controversial bit maybe is that can you steal and buy from the blacksmith in the same turn? Now that, to me, it doesn't really say whether you can or not, so I would say that that's kind of a house rule that you could interpret. We've always played that you just do one thing when you go there. So if you do visit the blacksmith, you are stealing. That's your action. You've done it. You're not actually. You can't then buy. You can't steal something and then sell it back to him. I think that's a bit too much. So in the purchase deck, the standard equipment is the sword, axe, helmet, shield, armor, mule, water bottle, raft. So what to steal from that if you've got all of that available to you? It all depends on where you are in the game. If you've already got a weapon, then you don't need a weapon. A weapon will +1, so the sword and the axe. The helmet, shield and armor, they protect you. So if you've been beaten, you know, in an attack and you lose, you can roll to try and save yourself to see whether that does take a life or it doesn't. The mule, that lets you carry an extra 4 items. The water bottle prevents you from losing a life in the desert, in the middle region. And the raft allows you to craft a raft, I think it's in the woods, where you can then just go over the Storm River into the middle region on your next go. Now, I always like nicking the mule. That's my personal preference, because especially earlier on, and especially as you're a thief, you're all about objects. So if you can nick the mule, because it's a follower, so you won't be able to land on a character and nick their mule because it's a follower, you can only nick objects or gold, then if you can nick it from the purchase deck, I would do so, because then you can have 4 more extra objects, which means you can then carry on nicking from your fellow players, and that's always fun. Mind you, with all this nicking going on, people will start attacking you. They will start coming after you. Just a little bit of a warning. The downside to the thief, there's no spells. You don't start with spells despite your craft being 3. So you can have a spell, you need 3 to have 1 spell. You can potentially have 1 spell, but you don't start the game with a spell. So that's a little bit of a downside, but it might be a bit OP if he has a spell. And also he's a thief, so he's not really into magic, I guess. You've only got 2 special abilities compared to other characters. Some have 3 or 4. So again, you might think he's a little bit lightweight on that. But if you use that combination of going to the blacksmith a lot to try and nick weapons and armor, I would definitely do that. And also you can land on other characters. I would target that. That should be one of your main objectives certainly in the early stages of the game, and certainly if someone gets a talisman. And it only has 2 fates. It only starts with 2 fates. So obviously your re-roll fate allows you to re-roll a die if you don't like the score. You can only do it once, but you pay a fate to do that. And you then have to accept the second outcome of that roll. But he's only got 2 of them. So you might want to keep dashing back to the graveyard, get the gold, and then pay the gold to heal up, to replenish your fate. Favourable places on the board for neutral characters are, in the outer region, the graveyard, as I just said, you can go back and replenish your fate for the cost of 1 gold. The chapel, if you're neutral, you can heal up to your life value, and that's 4, for 1 gold per life, and that's definitely worth doing, because lives can be cheap sometimes, as in you can lose them quite quickly. Certainly if you've got 1 life left, go back to the chapel and heal yourself up. If you are evil, that isn't an option for you in the chapel. If you're evil and you go to chapel, you lose a life. So neutral does benefit from the chapel as well. The Crags, like other characters, go to the Crags, you roll 1 die. If you roll a 6, you gain a strength. The Forest, again, this applies to all characters. Go to the Forest because, and these are on the outer region, if you roll a 6, a ranger guides you out and you gain a craft. Best place on a board to avoid if you are neutral. In the outer region, none really. They're all pretty friendly. As I say, the chapel, you can go there. The graveyard, you can go there. Because you're neutral, you're not affected too much by what's going on there. So that's cool. So you don't have to be frightened by anything really. And the middle region, none as well. There's nothing really that's particular to being neutral there. Now the best route to go to the inner region, either side, since you both start with craft and strength at 3, it's 50-50 which way you'll be powering up. You could choose to definitely go, right, I'm going to make it a focus to power up on strength, but then again you might be drawing, and attacking spirits that will give you craft if you cash them in for trophy points. So it purely is dependent. Sometimes you might have a character that starts with craft 4 and strength 2, so therefore I would say, well, yeah, focus on craft because you're already, higher in craft. Now you want to aim for 10 craft or 10 strength. Ideally, you want to go for that both of those figures before you start going into the inner region, simply because, you can chance it, but there are die tests where you roll the die and you have to get above or below a certain amount. And so the higher your craft and the higher your strength, the better. So it's purely up to you which way you want to go in the inner region. So just to recap, I would say that because you're a thief, you're all about nicking objects and gold, so you need to land on as many characters as you can to steal that gold or the objects. Steal from the market and as much as possible. So if the market does crop up, that's a place. If it does come out of the adventure deck, go there as much as you can. And also, if the market day crops up, that is a one-off event, but yeah, definitely take advantage of stealing. And I would steal the mule, definitely steal the mule, because then that adds 4 more objects that you can carry. You can visit the graveyard, go there, replenish your fate up as much as possible. It does cost you 1 gold, but obviously if you're stealing gold off other people, you should have a surplus of gold. Go to the chapel, healing up your lives, that's always good, because not all characters can have a place to heal up their lives straight away, so that's always an advantage. And like all characters though, go to the Crags, get a strength, go to the forest to gain a craft. And just to recap, yeah, go round either way. Obviously, if you've powered up on strength, I would go one way over the other. But I would say because you start with both strength and craft, you probably will be powering up quite evenly throughout the game. And there we are, that's the hints and tips. So good luck if you're playing the thief. And hopefully you'll reach the crown of command and be victorious. Talisman the Thief. So hopefully you found those hints and tips useful. We have done reviews of the base game, the 4th edition Talisman base game, as well as all of the expansions. And when I mean all of the expansions, I mean all of the official expansions. And there are lots of them. And I do a little playthrough guide. So if you want to know a little bit more about how to play the base game or any of the expansions, check those out. We've put them in a handy playlist because we're always thinking of you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And remember to keep it unreal, especially if you like nicking stuff.